Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to go over the 5-part webinar series that was done previously on cleaning your projects and maintaining corporate standards using the CTC Express tools. This webinar series that we put on not too long ago, and wanted to give you a summary of everything that was discussed in case there is a series or a video that you want to focus on specifically. Before we begin, I want to encourage everyone to ask questions throughout the webinar using the questions panel. I will be monitoring that as we go and will do my best to answer those questions in line with the presentation. If I do not get to them during the call or during the session, I will make sure to make time at the end to answer them all. Secondly, this is going to be recorded and will be on our YouTube channel shortly after the presentation has concluded. So with that, we'll get going. Now, so to get everyone up to speed, maintaining a Revit file, just one Revit file, and doing all the maintenance and purging and cleanup and swapping of elements and, you know, clean up exploded CAD files and all that stuff can be very disruptive to our project, right? We may have to shut the file down for a while to detach and audit and purge and do all these things. And it can take time. And having to do that on a regular basis to keep it up to speed and to keep things clean and as efficient as possible can be extremely disruptive. And a lot of that is manual. There's not a lot of default Revit tools available to assist with stuff like this. And that's just on the cleanup side of things. What if you want to try to figure out what is actually wrong with the file without having to open it? Or if you want tools to help maintain standards in a project or prevent bad things from happening in certain cases, you know, kind of make it as your job as easy as you possibly can. And we have at CTC a number of tools to help you, the user, the BIM manager, director, figure out what's wrong, fix it, and then ways to kind of deploy a standard and keep things from happening. Hopefully keep things from happening. So the issues that we run into on any project are maintaining standards. Project standards, you know, template standards are difficult to administer, and then on top of that, difficult to maintain, right? If anyone knows anything about Revit, all that stuff can be changed, and natively there's nothing we can do about it. If people know how to use Revit, they're going to change this stuff. Implementing a standard like in your template, you know, conceptually are simple, but the processes at times can take longer than you would expect. Right. So there's another, again, more time spent on just getting stuff set up. Enforcement, forget about it. Revit doesn't have that natively. So how can, you know, we need to be able to address that to a certain level as well. And as far as tracking these issues, and you know, you can't do that either unless you're opening the files directly and exporting and doing, you know, your own little manual data dump. So we've got a series of products to assist with this effort. And these products span across our entire CTC product line and in all of our suites. I've got tools listed here from every suite that we offer. BIM Batch Suite, BIM Data Suite, BIM Project Suite, and BIM Manager Suite. All suites are represented in this case, and including Hive. Hive is also represented in this, and you'll see where in a minute. But these are all the products that were discussed during this series, from gathering data to reviewing the data, doing the cleanup, setting up the standard and a way to help manage and deploy that standard in a repeatable process, and some basic, in your face messaging and prevention efforts to help the users themselves see that, hey, something's wrong with the file, or hey, maybe I should do something different. So today's webinar hopefully will give you some insight on how to do some of this on a very high level, and guide you to the series where you can get more information about how this actually works, and where to go to get more information and the tools at hand. So show you how to, briefly tell you which tools help you with the data, and a little bit about reporting on it. Then I'm going to point out which tools help you clean things up, clean up your files, right? And how to do that either per project or kind of in batch. A couple of tools that help with the standards management and deployment of said standards, and then what will help you kind of mitigate these issues or prevent some of them from happening in the first place. So we got a lot to talk about, which is why we had it in a five-part series. So the first part here is gathering data, right? And we got a handful of tools that assist with gathering data. The first tool that I'm going to point out is the Model Compare from the BIM project suite. And what this allows you to do is take snapshots of your Revit file at any point in time. So say you just started it a month ago, you've got a fair starting point, take a snapshot. Then in another couple of weeks or in another month, take another snapshot, compare the two, see what's different, see what things have changed, what's been removed, where things have been updated. Really good for linked files. When you receive a linked model, take a snapshot of that linked model so that you have that moment in time. And then when you get an update in a week or two, take another snapshot of that. And now we can compare the two snapshots and see what's different. And now I know where in these models we need to focus our efforts to accommodate the changes made in our links. So Model Compare has some good uses for it. It also allows you to help, say, do a health check of sorts and run comparisons on those, so you can kind of see where things are increasing that shouldn't be increasing, like unused families or unplaced rooms or things without area, material counts, and so on and so forth. So Model Compare, first tool we talked about. The second set of tools we talked about are from the BIM data suite, and they are the project snapshot exporter and the project activity logger. The snapshot exporter is effectively Model Compare with a couple extra bells and whistles. And by that, I mean, we have a reporting database. So instead of getting almost like an Excel report with some color-coded filtration on it, all of this data gets pushed into your SQL Server database. And then we provide a Power BI file, or you can set up your own visualization application to review the data, whether it's Domo or Tableau or, Google's Analytics or whatever else you may use. And, port that data from your SQL database into whatever BI software you're using. And this is a great way to get access to any bit of data that you want from within the Revit file and review it in a format that is better than just looking at a SQL database or just an Excel spreadsheet, right? We can get charts and we can see the progression over time on how things are happening. So snapshotting is a great way to get any bit of data out of your Revit file. The next piece to this is project activity logger, which runs silently in the background, extracting basic data from the Revit model, like sync to central times, what users do and what are in the file, how much time they're spending on the files, basic information about the model, like family counts and in-place families and dimension types, text types, styles, patterns, view information, and again, reporting it to a SQL database in this case for you to review at a later date in whatever BI tool that you want. The last piece to the gathering of data is Hive and Hive's project activity logger. The service is the same that comes with BIM Data Suite as far as logging the data itself. It's the basic project level data. And instead of having to have a SQL database on the back end to store all the information, this all gets stored in the cloud, and there's online dashboards available for you to review it. Again, things like sync to central times, open times, users actively working on the file, linked models, all the same stuff that you would get with the Data Suite version. This is just coming with the Hive package. Okay, so step one is gathering the data and collecting it. Step two, reviewing the data. So now, how I need to analyze this information that I'm extracting, whether it's from Model Compare or from Project Activity Logger or from the Snapshot Exporter. Now, if you're using BIM Data Suite specifically, there's a couple of PowerPoint files that, or I'm sorry, not PowerPoint, Power BI files that come along with the suite that we've built that you can tie into your SQL database environment to review the information that you've extracted. And if you have extracted, and it looks like this in SQL, for those of you that are familiar, I'm not very good at reviewing SQL databases. And so I love having the Power BI files to put together my own tables and charts and display the data that's meaningful to me about any given project that we've set up. So I can look up things like my line styles in the model and how many line styles are actually being used or not used, right? Same thing with views. How many views do I have created? How many of those are on the sheet? How many users have accessed this file? What versions of Revit are they using? What updates are they on? What add-ins do they have installed, sort of thing. So there's a lot of information that comes with the snapshot that can be viewed in the SQL database and Power BI files that we've provided. And if you know anything about Power BI, you can build up your own charts and tables and take what we've given you and expand upon it to make it valuable to what you're doing. The second piece is with Hive's Project Activity Logger. There's two parts to this, and they are either a Power BI file, which you have access to, which is the one here on the left side, but we also have online dashboards. And the online dashboard is right there at your fingertips. You just log into the portal, and if you're using the project analytics and you've set it up, you'll have access to it. And you'll be able to see all that information right there. You can grant access to your team members to just log in and view it online instead of giving them access to the Power BI and all the extra manual refreshes that need to happen. And we've also opened up a reporting API. And if you want to take it to the next level with the Hive data, we can get you that information. And it's a different Power BI file, structured a little bit differently, that gives you access to more information that's stored within your portal. So now that we've analyzed the data, now I find out what needs to be fixed. Maybe I find out I've got a bunch of duplicate families stored away, or a bunch of text and dimension styles that are not the standard anymore. We've made a change a while back, and people have brought details in from old projects. Or I've noticed from my report that a bunch of the dimension styles that are being used, or the dimension strings that are placed, are wrong, or they've been faked, right? They've got overrides in there that are wrong. We can fix this information. Or, a bunch of the links are wrong, or I'm noticing I have got too many links in a file. That's where the cleanup part starts to come into play. And the BIM Manager Suite specifically has a bunch of tools in it that will assist with the cleanup. So Type Swapper, for one, is great at taking what is not supposed to be there and replacing it with what is supposed to be there. For example, dimension styles, text styles, or annotation families that were used in previous projects in a detail that's now been inserted into my current project, and it's just wrong. right? It's the old version. Maybe it's using an old font, and the project team forgot to update them or replace all the information. Or maybe they need to, and they know they need to, right? If they have access to TypeSwapper, they can do that simply by specifying the old and replacing it with the new. Or maybe a CAD file got exploded, and I need to get rid of all those AutoCAD layers and line styles and patterns. If they're in use, I can use TypeSwapper to swap them with our Revit line work and our Revit styles, and then turn around and delete all the CAD stuff. And those are settings that can be kind of maintained within the app itself and reused on multiple projects, especially if it's something that's happening on a frequent basis. The next one, schedule parameter resolver. If I'm loading in content from every which way, and maybe the parameter names are the same, and now when I try to update a schedule or build a schedule from that, I've got multiple frame materials and multiple panel materials, and I don't know which one it's supposed to be. So you build out the schedule, you find out that you picked the wrong ones. Now you can use schedule parameter resolver to fix that and maintain all your header groupings so that you don't have to basically blow up your schedule and start over and regrouping all the headers. Schedule parameter resolver does that for you. Project Cleaner, another one that is helping get rid of stuff that isn't supposed to be there, right? Too many views. You got a bunch of unplaced views that aren't going to be on the sheet, and you just don't need them anymore. Instead of trying to navigate through your project browser and get all that stuff, you can just use Project Cleaner, change your sorting, check a box or a couple boxes, hit remove. Same with view templates or filters or sheets that are no longer being used. Maybe they were for a schematic stage and we're not, or it's just in your template and you're not going to use it for this project. You can delete them all in a big bunch. And you can do all of this in a big bunch. Maybe there's a bunch of CAD links or image imports that you decided no longer need to be here. Get rid of everything. Lastly is the import and link manager. This tool helps you convert CAD links or CAD files that have been imported into a link. Or maybe notice that a Revit file or Revit link was accidentally copied, and now you've got two instances of the same link. We can uncover that bit of information with this tool and resolve it also with this tool. And actually, all of this stuff that I'm talking about, you would be able to find in all of those data reports that we can create with PAL or with Snapshot Exporter or Model Compare. All of these tools have specific use cases based off information found from those files. We can clean them up with all these tools. And if you get creative, you can use a bunch of other tools from the other suites to help out with this effort. Step 3 is help, how do we manage our standard? How do we help make the process easier for the end user so they don't have to come up with their own ways of doing things? So we got tools from BIM Project Suite and from BIM Batch Suite to help with this. Spreadsheet Link, probably going to be at the top of the list for most people in this case, as far as helping do things in project files that users tend to do incorrectly or that take a lot of time potentially, and just the door is wide open for accidental errors. So Spreadsheet Link will help with that, whether it's batch sheet creation and sheet naming and numbering and sorting, or updating view names or room names or space names, building a workflow that will take code data or occupancy data from the model, run it through a bunch of calculations in Excel, and push it right back into Revit so that the numbers are accurate and you don't have to expect someone to manually enter that data from the Excel spreadsheet that has been manually put together over the years. So there's workflows in there, or maybe you need to do plumbing fixture quantities and calculations based off the number of users in a file or in a building, or based on the occupancy of a building. Spreadsheet Link, there's workflows for that. Go to our YouTube channel to find some of those videos to talk about those workflows. View Creator. You've got a standard way of getting the views built and set up in your project. View Creator can help with that standard to build the levels and then build the appropriate plan and ceiling plan views based off those levels and based off your naming convention and the view template and a scope box. Name things automatically, turn around and build the dependent views if necessary based off those plans, so that it's no longer a manual process in Revit where it's a bunch of right-click duplicate or view floor plan or plan views this whatever floor plan. You can cut the time it takes to get a project set up the right way by 90% using tools like Spreadsheet Link and View Creator, and it's done the right way. Revision Manager is great at taking projects that have been revived for phase 2 of a job, and instead of starting over, you can just piggyback off what you've already done and do the next round of documentation and use Revision Manager and Revision Cloud Remover to assist with isolating and removing revision data that is no longer prevalent to the project. Or you notice revisions are placed on the wrong sheets, or certain sheets are showing the wrong revision even though there should be one there. We can use Revision Manager to clean a lot of that up and get the CA process to run a little bit more smoothly. For the BIM Batch Suite specifically, we've got Project Processor and Plotter and Exporter. Project Processor does almost everything I've talked about already, all in one shot on a project or on multiple projects. If like a lot of the cleanup stuff that we've done in the past that I've talked about previously, type swapping, deleting of elements, renaming of views and sheets, to make sure that they are indeed doing what we need them to do. Project Processor can do a lot of that stuff to the file all at the same time. And then last but not least, we all have plot standards and print day standards, and maybe there's exporting standards that we need to follow. Plotter Exporter can assist with that in making sure that things are being named properly. Either the entire set is being printed into a single PDF or into multiple PDFs. All my DWGs or my NWCs or my IFCs or what have you can all be exported with the proper naming convention and the proper CAD standards or export standards. And it can all be scheduled and run on a regular basis, so that all you have to do when you come to the office, say on a Thursday morning, is review the exports. So there's a lot there that can be managed as far as print day services go that Revit inherently doesn't do very well. And it's also a very manual process at that point. This automates that workflow. All right, and then the final piece to the puzzle here is is there a way we can prevent some of this stuff from happening? And in our mind, yes, there is. We have a couple of things that can help with this issue. The first one is Hive Project Standards. And what Hive Project Standards allows you to do is get messaging in your team members' faces, in your users' faces that says, hey, you're not supposed to do that. Or, hey, be careful. Make sure you know what you're doing and that you're going about it in the right fashion. We can throw proper messaging out there so that the users know, hey, I should probably go reference this first, or hey, that's a great reminder. We don't do it that way. I'm going to cancel this operation and go do it the right way. And that's the point. We want to make sure that the users working in the files every single day know what they're supposed to be doing or what they're not supposed to be doing. And then we can build in some basic type replacement of entities as well to make sure that the right objects are being used in a file. Last but not least, we have the model dashboard from the BIM project suite, which again is getting data in the user's face so they can see right out of the gate if there's something wrong with their file when they open it. Because chances are they're going to know that there's something wrong before the management team knows. It's always the case. As a BIM manager, I always heard from the team members, my project is super slow, something's wrong. takes 20 minutes to open the file. It used to take 5. What's going on, right? And then I get to go ahead and spend all this time trying to figure out what's wrong. Well, now we can put this little kind of mini dashboard into every single project and into the user's face to let them know, hey, you've got a bunch of warnings. You should probably address these. And as long as the team understands what this is saying and what they can do about it, I think it's a great way to keep the everyday Revit user informed as to the status of their projects and the health and how they can go about addressing some of this stuff. So that covers everything that was discussed in the 5-part series. Here's the links for all of this stuff. Everything's on our YouTube channel. And so just to kind of give you an overview of where to find certain pieces of information if certain things intrigue you more than others. Part 1 was the gathering of data and reviewing, right? So those 2 pieces were in the same part. So that covers model compare, project activity logger, snapshot exporter, and then reviewing the information in the Power BI files. Part 2 and part 3, because there was a number of apps that were part of this, were the cleanup part, type swapper, dim checker, that sort of thing, and how to use those tools for the cleanup process. So that's part 2 and 3. Part 4 talked about the maintenance or the management of the standards, spreadsheet link, view creator, and a little bit of project processor thrown in there as well. And then part 5 is the prevention with the model dashboard and the project standards. So if you're interested, go check those out. I suggest watching all 5 of them because they are full of information in how to work through each of the tools themselves. I touched on everything in that series. So I recommend going to check it out and having a joyous time. And if you've never seen any of our stuff before, this is your first time watching one of these videos, I do recommend jumping out to our YouTube channel. We've got videos galore up there for everything that we do. Also, check out our website and get a little bit more information about each of the suites and the individual products within the suite. And if you have questions, just reach out, get a hold of us, and more than happy to set up a call, do a demo, guide you to more information and additional resources if you need it. Yeah, so that takes care of it. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Love doing the webinars every week with you, and look forward to seeing you guys at the next one next week. Take care, everybody.